Welcome to Trading the Close on this Thursday. I'm Toni Valliere with Verified Investing. In today's top headlines, the Dow hits an intraday high and PCE data release shows inflation continues to ease. Let's bring in my special guest today, Verified Investing trader Paul Sampson, with a recap of the day. I know Paul is joining us via Zoom. So, Paul, I want to thank you very much for joining us. What are some of the big takeaways from today?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Tony, how you doing? Today's an interesting day, and to wrap up, I guess, an interesting month. It's the last day of November. We're closing up month number 2 of quarter 4. So it's just kind of interesting to see where things are kind of line up here. So I did want to kind of take a look here. I've got the SPY pulled up. I know this morning on the game plan, Gareth was covering, I think for the last couple of days even, this little region here. As we're coming up into this recent high from back in the summer of July timeframe, and one thing to note here is that once again we've had a really big impulse move, pretty much just straight up over the last, I believe it's basically the whole month of November. We've got the like I said, the monthly close coming in, and then a couple of things that I like to look at, as well as kind of taking a look at like trend lines and patterns and things of that nature. That I utilize range data based on volume. So there's actually a tool here on TradingView called the Fixed Range Volume Profile tool, and essentially what that does is enables you to kind of highlight, any area of the chart, and it's going to break that down and showcase where the most volume came in. So it's basically the value area essentially of a certain area on the chart. And one thing that I like to do is I like to base it and break it down on time. So as we're coming into now, the second month of the quarter here, we can start to take a look and see, what the volume is for basically October and November, right? So as we're coming into these high areas here, we can see that, down below us is where our value area still is. So this is basically telling us that the most, even though the price action is all the way up in this area here, the majority of volume actually came in down below us. This line right here represents the point of control. So this is actually the highest amount of volume traded. So this is where the most, trading hands is taking place basically. And if I was to take that off, you can essentially see that comes back down, towards this, this pivot area here. So for me, I'm really paying attention to see if we can, kind of come through and take this high. But otherwise, I'm anticipating a pullback at this point. Maybe it's not, extreme for the next couple months, but at least potentially a couple weeks coming up. And I know today we had some news where it was kind of a nothing burger. You had the jobs reports kind of come out on point. You had the PCE information. What's that?
Oh, I was just agreeing. I was laughing at the nothing burger, but I'm loving what you're doing with the chart. I've not seen that before, the measuring of the volume. So continue, please.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I want to point out is that tomorrow we have a Jerome Powell speech. So not only are we closing the month, we're kind of in some high areas here. We've got our value areas, down below us, and we've got a speech by Powell tomorrow. So that's one thing to kind of like start stacking up in your vault as far as like trying to dictate and kind of start journaling out what you're going to be prepared for as we enter tomorrow, end of the week, first day of the month, things of that nature. But yeah, I'm looking for the pullback here. Also looking for a Fibonacci retracement of, it's called the gold pocket. What that is I'm measuring this region here from the low to high. And of this area, we're looking at a potential 61 to 65% retracement. That's a very high probability that it comes back down to this region over time. So between that, that 440 and coming back down to 426, that's where I'm really looking at here for the S&P potentially. So yeah, it's just gonna be an interesting day as we kind of wrap up the week into tomorrow and see how things go.
I know you were following Apple as well, and of course Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess actually let me touch on the DXY also. So when looking at things as we're stacking up, you've got the S&P kind of coming into highs. We're going to go over Apple and Bitcoin here in a second as well. The DXY, which once again had a really nice pullback here, which allowed everything to kind of get a nice little rally. You're seeing a push up here in the DXY. And interesting enough, right? So once again, looking at that Fibonacci retracement. So of this move here, the low to high, we came down perfectly right into that 61.8 area. And we're going to bounce there now. So potentially we're going to get a little short-term relief here out of the DXY. Generally, that leads to a pullback in the markets. So that could lead us into that, the S&P getting a little bit of a pullback as well, and everything as around with it. Apple, on the other hand, has been very interesting to me. So I've been tracking this for quite some time, and I'm more so like involved in the crypto space, but I do track, some of the heavy hitters and obviously the S&P and things of that nature in the market to kind of dictate and kind of keep a good level head on everything as a whole. And Apple here has a very interesting setup here as well. So not necessarily coming back up to these highs from the summertime here, but we have come up and we've come into this region here, and you're starting to get a bit of a rollover. We did just close the day, so once again, a straight green rocket up to the upside for the last month. You have to anticipate a pullback is in play. Most likely coming back down to this region right here, and the same deal. Just kind of looking at the developing quarter here as we kind of close things up. Right, we've got our point of control for Apple comes all the way back down into like 178 region. If we're going to look at a potential, gold pocket area, comes into that area as well. You got the high side of our value area comes in at 184. So just all things that indicate, nothing crazy. I don't think it's necessarily going to be at the moment, this huge drop. But if things do start getting hairy, there's one area I've been looking at for quite some time that I'd be most interested in getting, more so like the next swing opportunity out of Apple. And it's all the way back down at 150. And the reason being is that of this entire area, right, the entire move up from basically this entire year from the low of December 2022 all the way to the high. This actually is that gold pocket region that, just been showcasing for the others. So once again, a very high probability area to retrace to. Nothing necessarily would be broken. You still have your low, a high, potentially a higher low, and we would continue onward. There's also a high time frame average of price here that has not been back tested. So very similar, like a moving average. This is just a average of price for 3 months. So this is a set area that, does not change, but the market does tend to come back and fill those in. And then we have a naked point of control. So when the quarter does end, right, and we don't come back and we test those points of controls, those are major volume targets. So can't necessarily marry that we're coming down in this region right now, but as we start, making our way down, if we start losing some key levels, this is going to be the main area I'd be looking to on Apple there.
Okay, good to know. And then Bitcoin, what are you seeing with that
Yeah,
today?
So Bitcoin is generally what I pay the most attention to here. Looking at the S&P, the DXY, and kind of looking to that potential speech tomorrow. Everybody's kind of waited with bated breath type of situation. DXY is going to move up, and generally, like I said, that would we would assume that we'd see a little bit of a pullback on risk on assets here. The thing that's interesting me about Bitcoin on this latest move here is that we're just slowly grinding up here. And then, unlike or I guess similar to the stocks as well, you've had this really big impulse move up here that most were not really anticipating or ready for. So if potentially anybody's been, on the sidelines or trying to get in or waiting for that pullback or potentially trying to short, I just think that there's a potential little recipe for a little bit of a short squeeze up here as we're just kind of just grinding slowly. There's all these news catalysts coming out. The price is just not coming down. And then on top of that, I'm looking for this, and it's not like, I don't think we're going to go to 50K right out of here, but I think we could still see like 39 to 40K here in the near term, even though we do see the DXY pushing up a bit. And one reason is I'm looking at this old range. So when I was highlighting those other areas like on Apple, S&P, you can see here that Bitcoin was basically just banging its head on this old range from last year. And we finally broke back into this region. And once again, when you break into these ranges, it's a very simple, claim the low, rotate over time to the high. You have some key levels in between, one of which is usually going to be that point of control, that highest volume traded area. And once again, this is an area where once this session closed, so this was a quarter of last year, price never returned to it. So this makes this it's an inefficiency in the market at the moment. So
Okay.
definitely an area that, is going to have some interest when it comes back to it. Very close to it now. It's just above us about 39K. So I would imagine that we're going to come in and tag that area. And then I'd really be gauging to see, the reactions at that point. But it's tough to get in on Bitcoin. I definitely wouldn't be FOMOing into anything on Bitcoin right now. But if you're in, from lower, definitely an area to be interested in is that 39K. After that, I do anticipate, potential pullback as well, similar to, the stock market and everything else.
Certainly not cheap either. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Paul, you are wonderful. I learned so much. I really appreciate your time, and thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure.
Well, you can watch Paul on his show, The Bottom Line, where he and Ben Poole delve into the dynamic worlds of crypto and the stock markets, both with unique perspectives. The Bottom Line airs every Tuesday at 8 p.m. right here. And if you've been wanting to learn about cryptocurrencies, we have the course for you. The Verified Crypto Guide with Aaron Dishner offers expert insights on the trading crypto, as well as methods for storing, transferring, and safeguarding your crypto assets. It is on sale, by the way, and available on verifiedinvesting.com. Well, that does it for Trading the Close on this Thursday. I'm Toni Valliere. Have a great day.